Describe an occasion that you lost something in public.
Mm.
You should say, what did you lose? When and where did you lose it? What did you do to find it? And explain how you felt about it.
Okay.
Go ahead.
I'd like to talk about a time when I lost my wallet in a shopping mall. It happened about a year ago when I was out shopping with my friends.
Mm-hmm.
I realized I had lost it after paying for something at a store.
Yeah.
I must have dropped it somewhere while walking around the mall.
Oh, right.
The wallet had some cash, my ID card, and a few important receipts. I immediately retraced my steps and asked the staff at the stores I had visited if they had seen it.
Oh.
I also went to the mall's lost and found desk to report it, but unfortunately, no one had returned it. I felt very upset and worried because replacing my ID card would take a lot of time and effort.
Mm.
I also felt frustrated with myself for not being more careful. After that incident, I became more cautious about keeping my belongings safe.
Okay, great. Thank you. So now let's jump right into part 3. All right. So the first question, what do people often feel after losing things?
People usually feel upset or stressed because they might lose something important or valuable.
Mm.
For example, if someone loses their wallet, they might feel worried about losing their money or ID cards. This can also cause frustration, especially if it takes time to replace the lost item.
Okay, excellent. Next question. What can we do to reduce the possibility of losing things?
We can be more careful by keeping our things in safe places and checking regularly if we have everything. For instance, putting keys in the same spot every day or using a bag with secure compartments can help prevent losing items. Being mindful of our belongings when traveling or in crowded places is also important.
Okay. All right. Next question. What kinds of people may lose things often?
People who are forgetful or careless are more likely to lose things because they don't pay enough attention. For example, someone who's always in a rush might leave their phone behind in a cafe or misplace their keys at home.
Right. All right. So moving on to the next question. Is it effective to offer rewards for finding lost things?
Yes, offering rewards can encourage people to return lost items, especially if they are valuable. For example, if someone finds a lost phone and knows there's a reward, they might be more motivated to return it quickly.
Okay, next question. What will people do when losing things?
People usually retrace their steps, ask others for help, or report the lost item to the authorities.
Mm-hmm.
For instance, if someone loses their bag in a shopping mall, they might go back to the stores they visited and check with the staff or the lost and found desk.
Okay, great. And the last question for this Band 8 response.
Okay.
What kinds of things do people usually lose?
People often lose small items like wallets, keys, phones, or jewelry because they are easy to misplace.
Right.
These items are portable and frequently used, so it's common for people to forget where they put them.
Okay, brilliant. So now that we've kind of got that Band-Aid benchmark, let's hear the Band 9 response to that exact same question. So again, imagine you're in the exam room and I'm the examiner.
Yeah, okay.
And I say, describe an occasion that you lost something in public. You should say, what did you lose, when, and where did you lose it? What did you do to find it? And explain how you felt about it. So go ahead. Let's hear the Band 9 response.
One memorable occasion when I lost something in public was about 6 months ago when I misplaced my smartphone at a coffee shop. It happened during a busy afternoon while I was meeting a friend for coffee. After finishing our conversation, I left the cafe without realizing that I'd left my phone on the table. About 10 minutes later, I noticed it was missing when I reached for it in my bag. I immediately returned to the cafe and asked the staff if they had seen my phone. Luckily, someone had found it and handed it over to the manager, who returned it to me after confirming it was mine. I felt incredibly relieved and grateful for the honesty of the person who found my phone. The experience taught me to be more mindful of my belongings in public places.
Okay, so right off the bat, there are a few subtle shifts in the language there. Like, for example, starting with one memorable occasion, it kind of sets this slightly more narrative tone.
Yeah, it does.
And using the word misplaced instead of just lost. It suggests something a bit more specific.
I think those word choices right at the beginning are interesting because they give us a clue that the speaker is going to be using a broader range of vocabulary.
Yeah, totally, totally. And then even the way they describe like the sequence of events,
Yes,
it just flows a little bit more smoothly.
it does, yeah.
Okay, so now let's dive into the seat. Part 3 questions for this Band 9 response. So first question again is, what do people often feel after losing things?
People often feel anxious or frustrated after losing something, especially if it's valuable or holds sentimental importance.
Hmm.
For instance, losing a wedding ring can cause emotional distress due to its personal significance. Some may also feel regret for not being more careful with their belongings.
Okay, so even the emotions there, right? Instead of upset or stressed, they've used anxious or frustrated.
Right, more
It
precise.
just adds another layer, right,
Yeah.
of nuance to it. And then saying losing a wedding ring can cause emotional distress because of the personal significance.
Yeah, and anxious and frustrated are more precise descriptions of what we're feeling. And I think the added clause about sentimental items shows a greater ability to sort of talk about abstract concepts and feelings.
Yeah, I agree. Okay, second question is, what can we do to reduce the possibility of losing things?
To minimize losing items, we can develop habits like double checking before leaving a place and designating specific spots for important belongings.
Hmm.
For example, always keeping your keys on a hook near the door ensures you know where they are. Additionally, using tracking devices like key finders or apps that locate phones can make it easier to recover misplaced items.
Yeah, so even just that shift from reduce to minimize,
Right.
it's subtle,
Yeah.
but it's like a little uptick in the formality.
More formal, yeah.
Yeah. And then instead of just saying be careful, they say develop habits like double checking.
Yeah.
It feels a bit more proactive.
It does. And the example of
Mm.
tracking devices, that's a more sort of contemporary vocabulary being used there.
Yeah, exactly. And even saying ensures you know where they are.
Yeah.
It's grammatically a little bit more complex.
More sophisticated, yeah. Using the word minimize there and designating shows, yeah, a more advanced vocabulary. I think the detail about tracking devices shows an awareness of like a wider range of solutions.
Yeah, totally. Okay, so the third question. What kinds of people may lose things often?
Individuals who are disorganized or distracted tend to lose items frequently because they don't pay enough attention to where they place their belongings. For example, someone who is multitasking might leave their phone behind at a coffee shop because their focus is divided between tasks.
Okay, so there, instead of saying people who are forgetful or careless, they said individuals who are disorganized or distracted tend to lose items frequently.
Yeah, it's more formal again.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that explanation about multitasking leading to a divided focus is a more sophisticated way of looking at the situation.
Yeah, for sure. Even just using individuals and using the word frequently,
Yeah,
just more formal.
more formal.
Yeah. And then question 4, is it effective to offer rewards for finding lost things?
Offering rewards can be effective as it motivates people to return lost items quickly and honestly. For instance, if someone finds an expensive watch and sees an ad offering a reward for its return, they may be more inclined to contact the owner rather than keep it.
Okay, so even that phrasing can be effective as it motivates people to return lost items quickly and honestly.
Mm-hmm.
It's just more elaborate.
Yeah, it's a lot more specific.
Yeah. And then the example's like an expensive watch.
Right.
And they contrast the motivations, right?
Mm.
Contacting the owner versus keeping it. It's another layer there.
Absolutely. I think the use of as it motivates creates a more clear cause and effect relationship between those two things. And more inclined to contact the owner rather than keep it. It's a more subtle and nuanced way of saying they would return the item.
Yeah, totally. Okay, next question. What will people do when losing things?
When people lose something, they often retrace their steps by revisiting places where they think they left the item. They may also ask nearby individuals for help or report the loss to authorities or lost and found services in public places like malls or airports.
So here they've added that little extra bit of the detail by revisiting places where they think they left the item.
Yeah, more precision.
Yeah. And they've also said specifically malls or airports.
Right.
Like they've given those specific examples.
Those specific examples, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and lost and found services is a very specific way of describing that as well.
Yeah, exactly. And then the final question. What kinds of things do people usually lose?
Commonly lost items include wallets, phones, keys, sunglasses, and small personal accessories like jewelry or earphones, since they are portable and easy to misplace. These items are frequently carried around and often forgotten in public places like restaurants or public transport.
Okay, so starting off that list with commonly lost items include
Hmm.
is a slightly more formal way to begin the list.
Yeah, it is. It's a bit more structured.
Yeah. And then giving those extra examples like sunglasses and small personal accessories, it shows that broader range.
It does, yeah, and that extra information, since they are portable and easy to misplace.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And then the specific examples of restaurants or public transport,
Yeah.
all of that adds to just a more comprehensive and detailed response.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think it's really interesting to hear those responses kind of back to back,
Yeah,
because then we can start to see, okay, what are the actual differences?
right.
Like, what are the little things? So let's break it down a little bit
Okay.
in terms of grammar and vocabulary. So going back to the Band 8 Part 2 response, the grammar is totally fine.
Yeah, totally solid.
Like, it's all correct. They're using the past simple for the narrative, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then they've used the present perfect correctly when they say no one had returned it.
Yeah.
The sentences are mostly pretty straightforward. They're mainly using simple or compound sentences
Right.
with words like and, but, and because to connect them.
Yeah.
And then the vocabulary, it's effective.
Mm-hmm.
It's directly related to the topic.
Hmm.
Words like lost, wallet, shopping mall, upset, worried, retrace my steps.
Yeah.
Like, it's all good,
It is.
but it's quite basic.
Yeah, and I think that's the important point, right? The Band-Aid response is characterized by accuracy. There aren't any glaring grammatical errors. It's clear, it gets the message across. But what we don't see as much of is like complex grammatical structures,
Yeah.
less common, more nuanced vocabulary. Like they said, I must have dropped it, which is fine, but maybe a Band 9 would use a more sophisticated phrase.
Yeah, exactly. And that when we look at the Band 8, Part 3 responses, it's the same kind of thing.
Yeah.
Like, the grammar is all good. They're using modal verbs like might and can in the right way.
Yeah, it is.
The vocabulary answers the questions. Words like upset, stressed, careful, forgetful, encourage, retrace, report.
Yeah, but it's very predictable.
Yeah.
Right? Like these are all the most common words that would come to mind in that situation. And again, the sentences are all quite simple.
Yeah.
They're very direct.
So, yeah, it's understandable.
Yeah.
It's all grammatically correct,
It is.
but it's not really showing a very sophisticated use of language.
No, there's a sense that the speaker's comfortable, but they're staying within a fairly limited range of grammatical structures and vocabulary.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so now let's look at the Band 9 Part 2 response. So straight away, there are more varied sentence structures, like they use that subordinate clause at the beginning.
Yeah.
One memorable occasion when I lost something in public was ...
Yeah,
It adds complexity. Yeah.
it does.
And then later on they say, after finishing our conversation, I left the cafe without realizing that I'd left my phone on the table.
Yeah.
Again, combining those ideas in a really smooth way.
It is really smooth.
Yeah. And then the vocabulary is also a bit more advanced, right? Memorable occasion instead of just a time.
Mm-hmm.
Misplaced instead of lost.
Right.
And then the way they describe their feelings. Incredibly relieved, grateful for the honesty. They're using stronger adverbs. more specific vocabulary.
Yeah, this is where we see the difference between effective communication and a higher level of proficiency.
Yeah.
So they're not just getting the information across, they're doing it with a degree of elegance and precision, you
Yeah.
know? So misplaced suggests that it was like a temporary loss due to carelessness,
Yeah.
which is different to just lost.
Totally. Yeah.
And the intensity of those emotions is amplified, right?
Oh.
Incredibly relieved. And they give a reason for their gratitude, for the honesty.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And then looking at the band 9, part 3 responses.
Yeah.
It's the
Yeah.
same kind of thing.
Mhm.
Grammatically, we've got more complex sentences.
Yeah.
Like, especially if it's valuable or holds sentimental importance.
Yeah.
So they're using that relative clause to add the extra detail.
Exactly. Yeah.
And then the vocabulary is really expanding.
Yeah.
Words like anxious, frustrated, sentimental importance, personal significance, minimize, designating specific spots
Yeah.
instead of just safe places.
All right.
Ensures, tracking devices, disorganized, distracted, frequently,
Mm-hmm.
more inclined,
Yeah.
and then using authorities instead of just, like the police or something.
I think the vocabulary is so precise. Like, instead of saying it's important, they said valuable or holds sentimental importance, right? So
Yeah.
showing they can differentiate
Yeah.
and they can express these subtle differences in meaning.
Yeah.
And then same with designating specific spots.
Yeah.
Instead of keeping things in safe places,
Yeah.
it's a much clearer image in our heads. And I think that precision, that detail,
Yeah.
it's a hallmark of a higher level of language proficiency.
Yeah. Yeah, I totally agree. So what we're really seeing here is the difference between Band 8 and Band 9. It's not that Band 8 is making lots of mistakes.
Oh, no, not at all.
Like, their grammar is good.
Yeah.
It's that Band 9 is using this wider range of vocabulary and grammar.
Yeah.
They're choosing more precise words.
Yes.
They're using more complex sentence structures.
Right. And they can express those subtle nuances. They can be more flexible and sophisticated with their language.
Yeah, totally. So what does this actually mean for the average person out there?
Well, I think the big takeaway is this. If you want to improve your speaking, it's not just about learning more words.
Right.
It's about learning how to use them correctly.
Yeah.
And it's about how you put your sentences together.
Yeah, for sure.
So, can you say delighted instead of just happy?
Right.
Can you use different sentence structures?
Yeah, like can you add in a subordinate clause?
Yeah.
Can you use different verbals?
Yeah, can you make it flow?
Yeah, to make your speech more interesting.
Right.
And also, it's not about sounding like a textbook.
Oh, no.
Right.
Definitely not.
It's about making it natural.
Yeah.
So pay attention to how native speakers talk,
Yeah.
how they use these words, these structures.
In different contexts. Yeah.
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 And then try to copy them.
Yeah, absolutely.
So yeah, hopefully today's deep dive has given you a better understanding of what separates a Band 8 from a Band 9.
Yeah.
And maybe even some ideas for how you can improve your own speaking.
Yeah, I hope so.
Thanks for joining us,
Thanks for having me.
and we'll see you in the next deep dive.